welcome back to another gathering. I want to get a sense of where people are. Can you type in the comment where you're zooming from? Which part of country or which country are you zooming from? Just type the state or the country if you are in another country. I know Yu Bao is from Connecticut, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Maine, Louisiana, Illinois, Maine, Connecticut, Colorado, Boston. Many people from East Coast, in New England. All right, thank you. So I know where you located. So before we start our new lesson, I just want to emphasize one important point that I sent in my email to you, which is the opportunity to learn and to share the teaching that you have learned. There are 2 points, 2 different important points. First one, when you embody the spirit of learning to share, learning to teach, you definitely learn better, because you know that this knowledge and this wisdom will be passed on to other people. So you will better equip yourself with an open mind, curious mind, to get more from what I share. And whatever you want to share, but you are not sure that you understand that, you will ask, right? So that's the first point, when you learn with the mind that you will share with someone. And the second point, sharing here or teaching here, it doesn't mean that you will stand or sit in front of an audience. It doesn't just mean that. Okay, if you are capable of doing that, that's great. If you are not, then you could also share by encourage people to learn, or by embody the spirit of servicing others, helping others. That is also a way that you teach. That is also a way that you share with people, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to become a lecturer like me. You can also serve other people with what you learn. Volunteer. That's one thing. That's So any way that is suitable for you, embody that and manifest that in the service for other people. Okay, so that's the 2 things about learning in the spirits of sharing. All right. So today we will learn and also unlearn about the self, or the non-self. A monk went to ask his teacher, what is or who is Buddha? The teacher said, who are you? The monk left. Having a self is a privilege, but having too much of a self is a disaster. I'll return to the metaphor, anecdote earlier. Who are we? Who are you? You know, you may confidently say that you are someone who have an ID or a driver license or a degree or whatever that has your name on it, you know, to solidify your existence. But is that really you? If you are identified by such things, what happens when those things no longer exist? Would you lose yourself? Or when those things can no longer be used to identify you, would you be free? Or would you be lost? The way to test people who they are, very easy. You just say something mean to them and you will see who they are. So it is a privilege to have a self or to know oneself, but it is a disaster to have too much of a self. Why do I say this? Many people, you know, are still confounded about who they are. They don't seem to know who they are. That's why they try to work hard to find purpose. And anything that with that purpose becomes, you know, their identity. It is good that they can find themselves through that lens. You know, you call them yourself a doctor, a teacher, an engineer, an artist, right? It's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But most often the case, people lose themselves chasing that purpose because there is no anchor that holds them in the midst of life's ups and downs, right? So for those who are living like that, it is a privilege to know themselves, because that knowing allows them to further develop whatever they want. It is a very unuseful. It is very useful if those people, you know, who know themselves and embark on a spiritual journey. The earlier you know yourself, the faster you will become on the path of liberation. However, everyone is too much occupied about me, myself, and I. You know, one is also finding himself or herself in a circle of suffering because of that notion, me, myself, and I. You know some people who are like that, right? The Buddha teaches us to be aware of our relationship with the self. I use the word self and ego interchangeably, okay? Healthy relationship with the self is actually very healing, you know? And how do we find balance? How do we find that healthy relationship? We don't want to deny the existence of ourselves, but we also don't want to attach too much on the constant desire of the self, of the ego, right? That would be really, really bad. Because if we deny the existence of the self, we inevitably deny our suffering, and as the consequence, we deny the sufferings of other people. Also, the attachment to the idea of the self and what it wants will bring all of us to the point where unsatisfactory nature of life, which is suffering, will leave us with the sense of emptiness. This emptiness is not sunyata, okay? This emptiness is the void within us. So in order to understand the teaching of non-self, which is central to Buddhism, we have to understand first what constitutes our human existence. So this is for Christina. You requested 5 aggregates. So the Buddha showed us that there are 5 things that constitute a person. These 5 things are called the 5 aggregates. Right? You don't have to remember them. Just listen. First is form. Second, feeling. Third, perception. Fourth, mental formation. And fifth is consciousness. At first, when I prepared this Dharma talk, I thought it would be really easy because I have learned these 5 aggregates since I was a little novice. But then I find it so hard to explain because, our mind, our thinking part, our mental part is very complicated. So I'll try to use, an easy way for me to explain and also for you to understand, right? So what constitutes a person like all of us here are 5 things. Form is the matter, body or material form. What you see here is everything is form, right? Or a being or any existence. Okay, that's easy. Feeling, everybody knows what feelings are. Sad, happy, anxious, whatever. Right? Perception. This is something good. Perception. So you perceive. You know how to perceive the world. You know how to perceive your surroundings. Okay? Mental formations. This is good. Mental formations are conditioned thoughts. Conditioned thoughts. Thoughts that are conditioned. Okay? And finally, consciousness, it is an awareness of an object. Are you still with me? Good. So these 5 things, when they come together, there is an existence of a person. Let's take just one example to make this clear. So your physical body is form. You feel sad or if you feel happy is the feeling. When you see something, and that means you perceive that thing, such as a cup, a computer, a house. So you have a perception of things that you see and you know them. When you see a beautiful house, you like it, you feel happy. That is when your perception gives rise to your feeling. Right? And when somebody say something, say something to you, you perceive what they say as mean or kind. And then your feeling will occur accordingly. Okay? But how can you feel, your feeling occur the way it occurs? That's when mental formations happens. Okay? Mental formations are called conditioned thoughts because they are conditioned by external and internal factors. For example, when you heard something, you are conditioned by your education, society, and so many factors that you form thoughts that correspond to what you heard. When I say snake, what is your mental formation? When I say snake, somebody would say dangerous. Someone would say kill it. Someone would say destroy it. Does that mean where do you have that kind of mental formation? Because people say snakes are dangerous, kill them. Snakes are, bad, destroy them, right? So your mental formation are influenced or conditioned by your education, your society. That's the way everybody functions. But it doesn't have to be the normative way. You see, now we get to the juicy part of why we need to know these things. So two people hear one thing, but they may react differently depending on how they are conditioned. Right? So we put these 5 together, and they are two things. In Pali terms, it is rupa and nama. It is form and name, right? Physical and mental. Okay? Why do we want to learn this? This is the important part. So the Buddha teaches that, this is important when we are aware of the process of how the mind works. We will not be at its mercy anymore. We will have a say in it. The Buddha teaches about no self, not to deny our existence. It is to help us have a closer look at what we often think as this is who I am, this is how I act, this is me. So when somebody says something unkind to you, you would respond with anger immediately because that is your right, that is how you were raised, that is the way that is, everybody does that. Is it? Or is there a different way, a better way? When you argue with your spouse, when you have some difficult emotion, then if you know this, how the mind works, you wouldn't say, this is me, right? More importantly, we are not what we think we are. And it is very liberating. For example, when you are in a difficult relationship and you think that, it is the way that I have to endure. You think that it is who you are, and somehow someone is punishing you because of who you are. It's not true. Think again. If there is no independent existing entity that is called a self, then who is that person that you think deserves suffering? It is a matter of changing the way that you look at yourself. And Buddhism is all about the way we look at ourselves. You are more than what you think, because what you think is usually conditioned by your upbringing, your context, your education, or I may say your domestication. And all this can be changed by the way that you look at yourself, not as a fixed, static person, but as an ever-changing combination of different elements. So when you say, I have to find who I am, what you want to do is to find who you are not. Who you are is more than your mind. When you think like that, you'll be free from whatever your mind tricks you to think. Because if you put these 5 things separately, okay, you find no person there. then you may say, so who is experiencing this suffering, this anxiety, this worry? Again, don't go directly to the denial of who you are. If you are experiencing suffering, you have to acknowledge that that is suffering. Okay? You cannot just say that, oh, if I'm not real, then my suffering is not real. Therefore, other people's suffering also not real. It is very dangerous and very condescending to think like that. Okay? My way of practice is that you have to be able to go from a broken self to a healthy self, and then to non-self. You cannot go from broken, hurting self to non-self, to deny all the things that you have been undergoing through. Okay? And if we are on the path of liberation, we have to really be able to touch each and every feeling, every mental state that we have. We want to embrace those feelings with compassion. Because in order to penetrate the teaching of non-self, we have to really strongly establish ourselves. Now, we know that what constitute ourselves are the 5 aggregates. Okay? They are means for us to understand ourselves deeply. We'll look at ourselves using these 5 aggregates. It is by no means that we have to always use these 5 aggregates. Okay? You cannot say, hey, 5 aggregates, come here, I want to talk to you about something. You have to use the person's name or, title in a conventional sense. But when we meditate, when we investigate a certain emotion, because I know the nature of life is unsatisfactory. So there are anxieties, worries, suffering, and how do we look at them? Through the lens of 5 aggregates. To put it simply, whenever you have an emotion in your mind, do not identify yourself with that emotion. You always say that I am sad. No, you're not sad. You have a sad feeling. That is a totally different way of looking at things. I have an anxious feeling. Okay? If you can look at things like that, then you see your difficult feelings and emotions really, really differently. And when you are able to name that, you have the power over that feeling, not the other way around. Okay? Another important aspect, when you have a strong perception of anything, or you can, you have a strong belief about something, you can step back a little bit to examine where does that perspective or perception come from. If it's aligned with people in your surroundings, your society, that's good. But if it's not aligned with people in your society, in your context, you would have to protect that perspective, right? It's not that you shouldn't protect your perspective, but it's more important to remember that there are more than meet the eyes. Your perspective may be correct from your point of view, but it may not be correct from other people's point of view. The you is not real, let alone your perspective. When the Buddha decided to quit his self-modification practice, he realized something important. He called it the middle path. The middle path is somewhere between self-indulgence and self-modification. In teaching the non-self practice, he also encourages to find a middle path for us when it comes to things that we love dearly. And I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that the most important thing we all love dearly is ourselves. Don't tell me you love your partner more than you. I will not believe that for eternity. Because you love them in order to be loved. Of course, you have to sacrifice certain things in the relationship, but if I were to guess, I would guess that you love yourself more than them. Just think about something that they lie to you. You will see who you love more, right? So the teaching of non-self will be useful as long as it helps you free from attachment. Attachment of body, attachment of view, and attachment of belief. Even the self is not real, let alone anything else. The most intimate thing in you, beside you, always is just a combination of 5 things. And they will eventually be let go. So, who is the Buddha? The teachers say, who are you? What's your business in knowing the Buddha if you don't know who you are? We try so hard to figure out what others may think about us, to a point that we forget that what we think about ourselves is more important than what other people think about us. Right? So we have an idea of who we are, what we want, but it's very vague. When we face difficulties and challenges, we may be lost because, why do we have to be suffering like that? Why do we have to endure such difficult things? But in reality, the thing that the person that we think enduring such difficult emotions is not there. The feeling is there, but the self is not there. Somebody asked, if there is no self, what got rebirth? Who get rebirth? Who be reborn? If there is no self, then there is no rebirth. Congratulations. But unfortunately, we still think that we have a self. That's why we will get rebirth. To the point that when you truly realize there is no self, there is no ego, then there is no birth and rebirth. Until then, keep living happily in samsara. And hopefully, one day, by certain deep realization, we come to see that this self is very fragile. A combination of 5 things. Or, put it more simply, a combination of 2 things, nama and rupa, form and name, physical, mental. So I want to pause here and let us think a little bit deeply about the person that is most intimate with ourselves. The person that we hold dearly every day. What would happen if that person passes away? Meaning us. What are we holding on to at the moment of death? Because it's important. Liberation happens right now. Don't wait until the final point when pain, when sorrow, when crying, when grief happen, It should gradually manifesting right now in us. That is transformation. Because I have been to so many death beds, and it's not funny. It's not very calming for the one who is dying and for the family. So it's not to be pessimistic about life, but if we have that strong sense of what will happen, we will be more prepared and prepare for the big event, but also prepare for dukkha, suffering, daily suffering. You see, if this body will fade away, right? What's so important about petty, small stuff of daily encounters? Someone say something mean to us, someone cut us in the traffic. Those are really, really small. So tell me, are you prepared? Have you known yourself more and more every day? Because it is the most important question in Buddhist practice. I don't know what tradition you're following, but knowing yourself is the crucial part, crucial component of everyday's practice. You want to be happy? Know yourself more. You want to be liberated. Know yourself more. The more you know yourself, the better you get a chance. You have a chance to be liberated. That's why we practice meditation. Practicing meditation is to get to know ourselves a little bit more deeper. So I ask you, who are you?